Yusufa from Ghana. Good evening, Yusufa. You're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. And I would like to acknowledge the action of Mo Ibrahim by rewarding the best leaders in terms of democracy and how they manage the position. But you know, in Africa, like one of them was saying, I think Mr. Eric London, you know, in Africa, some of our presidents, I mean, our leaders are rich. But I would like to ask Mo Ibrahim to step forward again, finding some means of pressure, trying to maybe put some pressure to our leaders, especially in Africa, you know, so that they can try as much as possible to better the agenda that they come to put in place. You understand? Because the fact of rewarding is good. But in Africa, we are still in, I think, we don't just weigh the value of the rewards. You understand?
Yes.
So I will suggest that Mo will go forward and find some means of putting some pressure on some people to just step forward and move Africa, because we believe in that Africa can move forward.
I see. Thank you very much. Yeah. Patrick, there are some people also who have actually been saying that perhaps what Mo should have done, obviously Mo, it is his money, he has the right to do whatever he wants to do with it, that perhaps in fact he should have tried to promote independent media on the continent, so that the media can enlighten the African masses, who in turn can begin to understand their constitutional rights and begin to assert them, bring pressure to bear on their rulers.
I think, I mean, far be it for me to actually, like you've pointed out, tell Mo how to spend his money. But you are right, though. I think, and that's what I meant by this is a work in progress. This effort itself, the Mo Ibrahim Foundation Award, is, for leadership and excellence, is a step in the right direction, but it's not enough. Clearly, to really bring about the kind of good governance that we are all talking about, you need a lot more. You need a free press, like you've mentioned. You also need a very vibrant civil society. Because essentially what we have right now in Africa is democracy and governance from above. What will really make the most difference is if you have a collective effort from below that is also keeping our leaders honest. And so this leadership award, I think, is only one award in so many that are needed to actually get the job done.
Now, Eric, when we talk about the Mo Ibrahim Index, you mentioned some of the countries that have improved remarkably, and one of them happens to be the Republic of Rwanda. Now, the Republic of Rwanda...
Sure. I agree. But if you don't mind, Shaka, let me just go back a little bit to a couple of things that have been said. One from Yusuf in Ghana, where, and I want to point out that one of the reasons we produce the index is so that citizens can hold their governments to account. The index is a measure of outcomes, not policies, not inputs, outcomes. Services delivered, infrastructure built, improvements in the human condition. That's what the index does. And we produce that precisely so that citizens can hold their governments to account. It also is intended to serve as a tool of governance so that governments can see where they have weaknesses. Now, with the foundation having done that, it's important that this be relayed, that media take the information out, that citizens are informed, that the pressure builds. The foundation alone will never build enough pressure to bring about change. That pressure will have to come from citizens. And what we're doing is providing the tools for citizens to be able to do that. And just a point on the media before we go away. we do recognize the importance of media, and I may tell you that the foundation does provide support, minimal support, but it does provide support to media through the only regional organization that we know about, which is the African Media Initiative. We do provide some support to that because we recognize the importance of media in overall governance. Now, the question you asked, Shaka, was about countries that have done well, and you mentioned Rwanda. Again, you must, in all of this, we speak in relative terms, and that's what the data does. So how has Rwanda performed on a governance scale in the last 10 years? We've seen improvements, just as we have seen improvements in a country like the DRC, which is the 50th, or the 51st, actually, in rankings. So, you know, the DRC is way down at the bottom, just above Somalia. But in relative terms, there have been improvements in governance in the DRC over the last 10 years.
I see. Well, you talk about how you try to motivate people on the ground in Africa to hold their leaders or governments accountable. How do you do that, frankly, in a situation where some African leaders talk about how it is more important to deliver service delivery, social services, at the expense of democracy? You're talking about countries, Eric, where individuals, unless they support the ruling party, do not have the luxury of asserting their freedoms, not even freedom of expression, not even freedom of assembly. How do you go about that? Aren't you going to end up perhaps being accused by Mary talking the talk and not being able, in fact, to walk that talk?
Well, you see, your question goes to the very heart of what the index is trying to achieve. You know, I came from the World Bank, and I was in the World Bank for 20 years. I was a spokesperson there. I was at the African Development Bank for 4 years. I was a spokesperson there. And in all my years in those development institutions, the focus invariably was on human development and economic progress. We were looking at growth rates. Our country's growing. So Ghana at one time was a poster child for development because the growth rates in Ghana and human development were improving. Tunisia was a model. But the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, with its index, brought in a whole new way of assessing progress. It said you have to develop on the 4 pillars that are the categories that we've identified in the index. And if you're not developing on those 4, on those 4 legs, then your development is imbalanced. So in a sense, we almost predicted what happened in Tunisia. We said, no, Tunisia is growing economically. It's doing well on its human development. Those are 2 of 4 categories that we've identified, of 4 pillars of development. So we are telling the world now, and we're telling Africans, don't stop at economic development. Don't stop with looking at the human development statistics. Also look at participation and human rights. Look at safety and rule of law. We've included those 2 pillars in the overall assessment of governance. Now, the point I'm making is it is for the media to relay this. It is for, yes, it's for academic institutions, research, think tanks, parliaments. It's for everybody to relay this. Look at the country, look at the index. What is it saying about the quality of development? And if it's imbalanced, let the government know that and move resources as needs be.